In my book, Join the Club, I write about how people are using peer pressure to solve problems that have not been successfully attacked by other means. Just to give you an example of what we're talking about, the most obvious case is Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a group of people who come together, all of them involved in the same goals, and they hold each other accountable and provide each other with support. Now, if you'd asked me a few years ago to talk about how peer pressure can be a force for good, I probably would have thought of Alcoholics Anonymous, but I might not have thought of anything else. But now that I have my little peer pressure glasses on, I see this phenomenon everywhere. And in the book, I look at it as a solution for a wide scope of problems, including helping people to improve their health, helping minority students to succeed in college calculus, combating poverty, fighting terrorism, and even bringing down dictators. So let me start out with a program that began in the state of Florida in 1998. That year, teen smoking was astronomically high. A survey showed that more than 36% of all high school seniors were smokers, and no one knew what to do about it. The year before, the Washington Post had written a story about teen smoking with the headline, "Officials seek to cut a path through the haze of teen smoking. The bottom line, no one knows what works." They'd tried advertisements. Public health experts had tried advertising to teens, giving them information about the dangers of smoking, tried scaring teens, again, the dangers of smoking. None of that was effective. So the state of Florida did something unusual. Because of the new lawsuit that was happening against the tobacco companies, and Florida was one of the first states to do it, they did it separately, they got not only a pot of money, but a trove of documents that were opening up showing what was really going on inside the tobacco industry. And Florida, with that money, decided to hire an ad agency called Crispin Porter and Boguski, which had no experience with public health, but did know how to market to teenagers. The guys from Crispin Porter sat down and said, let's think about this. Why is it that teenagers start to smoke? For a teen, a cigarette is not a delivery system for nicotine. It's a delivery system for rebellion. It's a way of telling your peers, I'm so cool, I don't even listen to what adults tell me at all. It's a way of showing that you are anti-authority, that you are autonomous, and that older people don't tell you what to do. Well, this was clearly why past messages hadn't worked. Teenagers know about the dangers of smoking. They knew about them in 1998 also. In fact, focus groups showed the teens overestimated the dangers of smoking. They thought it was even worse than it was. But that was part of the appeal for a teenager. So Crispin Porter's people said, what if we find a way to make not smoking a way to rebel as well? And we have all these interesting documents now, so let's use the tobacco companies as the focus for our rebellion. So they convened a teen tobacco summit. They invited 600 teenagers from all over Florida to a meeting, and they basically spent the weekend making advertisements, literally writing the scripts and filming them. Crispin Porter's people were there to help, but the teens did it themselves. And what they came up with were ads that, in one, they showed a group of girls making a prank phone call to a woman who had been an advertising executive on the Lucky Strike account. And the girls call and they say, can you tell me what's lucky about Lucky Strikes? And of course, the advertising executive on the other end has no clue what's going on. And the girl says, is it because I might live? Hang up. And this was put on television. Another ad. A bunch of kids got into a car and did a road trip to Richmond, Virginia, which was the headquarters of Philip Morris. And they stopped at the gate, and the camera rolling, they asked the guard, can we speak to the Marlboro Man? And the guard, also clueless, said, oh, I'm sorry, you can't talk to him because he's dead. And in fact, the model who played the Marlboro Man on TV had just died. Does anybody know what he died of?
Lung cancer.
Lung cancer. And they put this on TV. So this was now a new kind of TV campaign for anti-smoking. And they supplemented it with groups, with clubs that were formed in every county in Florida that were not against smoking, and they were not against smokers. Their message was simply, these guys are trying to manipulate you. Tell them what they can do with it. And so these kids would go out and do pranks. Like, for example, they would do die-ins. They'd go to a building that had some association with tobacco, and they would lie on the floor outside, and people would draw around them with chalk, like a crime scene. This is the kind of thing they would do. And it was hugely effective. It was the first time in history that anything had been effective against teen smoking. Over the next 2 years, Florida saw the single largest drop in teen smoking that the US had ever seen. Then, when a national campaign was begun with the money from the tobacco lawsuits, they adopted Florida's managers, Crispin Porter's staff, and the entire Florida ad campaign on a nationwide basis, and it became what you may be familiar with, the Truth Campaign, small t truth. And over the next 10 years, teen smoking was cut in half.